Hey, thanks for joining the conversation today. We are talking about communication, conflict, how to fight fair, what is the right way to have conflict, what's the wrong way, and we end with talking about sex. So make sure you stay for the entire episode because this one's a good one with the Tallones.
Today's a special day.
It is.
We have the Countryside Christian Church marriage gurus with us.
That's right, the Tallones.
And at night, before I go to sleep, I pray, God, let my marriage look like Shawn and Lisa Tallone.
Honestly, me too.
You don't.
So,
No, seriously.
if you guys haven't seen the very first episode with them, go back and watch it.
Yeah.
There's so many good nuggets in there, and we brought them back for part 2. I still will just think of things that we talked about and be like, man, that was really, really good.
Just love the girl.
Just love the
girl.
Love the
man.
girl.
I used that in counseling with someone the other day, and I was like, I got to give credit to Shawn Tallone because this is where it came from. But, you know, one of the things that a lot of our audience probably doesn't know, but we know because we know y'all, is you both are world-class travelers.
Yes.
I feel like every time we talk, you're back from a different vacation, from a different remote country I've never even heard of. So I want to ask you both, what is like your favorite place you've ever traveled to and why?
Top 3.
Top three.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad you gave us that.
Do we have to be on the same page with this one?
No. You
Okay.
you tell yours and he can say his.
It's a hard one, to be honest. It's Italy is always, because I'm a Tallone, so Italy is so many
Forget
parts of
about it.
Italy
Is
that
that
are
New York?
amazing. But we love hiking, so some of the real memories of that were Norway. We did some spectacular hikes in Norway.
I broke my foot there.
Yeah, Lisa broke her ankle.
Way
on
up.
Way
Did the
up.
carrier?
Wow.
Yeah. Well, we had a
Some people from
multi-country that helped me get her down. 5 hours it took us. So
Yeah.
that was quite the. And then I don't know, Peru, Machu Picchu. We hiked the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu. That was a pretty spectacular one.
That's awesome.
On
And
the top
hiking.
3, maybe. I don't know.
No, that was definitely
yeah.
my top 3 too.
Yeah.
You're saying my top 2 so
Maybe
far.
the Tour du Mont Blanc, which was a
So you're-
hike through the Italian Alps and the Swiss Alps and the French Alps.
Really?
And
That was
we only did
amazing.
60 miles, but it's like 110 if you do it all.
Really?
But we stayed at these beautiful little towns in between. So
Yeah, I've been to Atlanta.
yeah,
You know, that's about far north as I go.
The DR.
I go to the DR. That's about as south as I go.
yeah.
So
That's cool.
it was Peru, Norway, and the Swiss and Italian Alps. Were
Yes.
those
Probably because
3.
Italy is
Actually-
included in that. Yeah,
Who has the best food though? Because out of those 3 places, food's a big reason why people travel.
food is.
Peru had amazing food. I was really
Really?
blown away by the food there.
Yeah,
Even on the camping trip, because we did like hardcore camping.
Really?
Yeah, in the Andes Mountains. We only did the 4-night one. You can actually do more nights, but anyways, yes, that was so wild.
So do you
Tent
book it with like
camping.
a group or something, like a group hiking thing, or
We
that
did.
one
just
you had
go-
to.
That was an
'cause you had
alpaca
to.
expeditions one, which we love that. We
so they
kind of,
carry your stuff, the alpacas, and they follow you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
well, not
cool.
the alpacas. No,
Oh,
Well, not the alpaca.
it was
the,
called that.
The Peruvians.
Oh,
Those guys
really?
are amazing. They're carrying 50 pounds in their back and hiking these crazy.
And then they're
Wow.
cooking in a tent in the
Yeah.
Andes. It's just wild. But anyways,
Yeah.
that was like that was such an amazing experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now in Italy, I gotta ask you. You mentioned Italy.
Italy.
What's your favorite city to go to in Italy?
The Amalfi
The
Coast.
Amalfi Coast
Positano.
was Positano. We stayed,
Positano.
and we drove the whole Amalfi Coast, which was
Did you really?
Because it's really tiny road.
I'm gonna be
Beautiful.
honest with you. I've never even heard of these cities and towns.
The
and
Amalfi
I've
Coast?
never heard of these things.
Dude, you need to go.
I need to
bro.
get cultured.
You do.
I need to get
We
cultured.
have a big map in our house, and we put pins in it because all of our kids travel too. Like currently, one of our kids he just flew to Thailand from Malaysia.
So cool.
Yeah, and then another kid of ours, he's lived in China and in India and
Yeah.
Really?
yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's true.
we have 3 wandering. Well, one's a couple. My husband, my son and his wife love to travel too. So
That's awesome.
So one of the things with traveling that is so important is communication, right?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's really what we're talking about today is communication.
Okay. Yes,
I
indeed.
feel like communication can be either a strong suit or something that really hurts a relationship. It can hurt an organization. It can hurt so many different things, and so many people struggle with it. I know me and Marcella both, we do a lot of marriage counseling and premarital counseling, just like you guys do premarital. And if you're in the Tampa Bay area and you're looking for premarital counseling, they do a group counseling session, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But one of the things that the biggest breakdowns when it comes to marriage is communication, where it's like we just can't get on the same page. So I want to hear from you guys as we get into this conversation about communication.
Yes.
Why is communication so important in marriage?
It's huge. It's the lifeblood. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, that is when you talk about the component of love, the emotional intimacy, soulmates, we're doing life together. It involves getting to know each other, communicating with each other, listening to each other. Man, communication is such I think we do a great job when we're dating because we're curious. We want to know about the other person, asking questions.
Yeah.
But I think some people, I don't know why you would think about not being that curious once you get married.
Yeah.
But, that could be, part of people's struggles. I don't know.
Yeah, I think sometimes people, once they're married, the curiosity fades away because comfortability kind of creeps in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, she's not leaving now. So you know what I mean? And now that I have the girl, now I have to love the girl to keep the girl. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Yeah. So with you guys, with the traveling, I'm sure there's a lot of communication that goes into planning these trips and making sure you're on the same page. But in a marriage, there's things you got to communicate about every single day. Who's going to do what? Who's going to take care of this? How are we going to do this in our life? And just from what I've seen, a lot of people's communication breaks down because they expect the other person to know what they want. So have you guys ever run into that in your marriage and counseling couples? And how do you help them to set their expectations and create a clear plan and vision for kind of their marriage and their future?
Well, you know what? So expectations in a marriage, this is kind of interesting. And this, it'll circle around to communication, I think. But sometimes we come into marriage with these certain expectations. This is just a simple example. And some of our expectations come from let's say our family of origin, where we grew up. Let's say Lisa saw her dad open a door for her mom. That's what was modeled and for him. And let's say I didn't. My dad didn't do that. So her expectation is a loving husband, opens the door for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know that's the script until Lisa tells me that. So I think a lot of expectations that are not met or we're missing the mark, it's just all about communicating, like we're trying to talk about. Yeah. I've got to be curious. I got to ask her those questions. She's got to tell me those questions. She can't expect I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
I can't read her mind. So we do need to.
Yeah, we're a little more complicated creatures for sure.
Yeah. What I like what you said there, though, is because I feel like it's easy as guys to be like, man, I can't read her mind, so how am I going to know what she wants? But I like what you said is like, we also can ask these probing questions.
Yes.
We need to ask, do you like it when I do this? Is there anything I'm doing that is not meeting expectations in some way? Is there anything I can do better? And it's almost like, okay, yes, I can't read her mind, but I can also ask her and kind of get some things out of her so I can be a better husband. So would you agree with that, Lisa?
Oh,
Is
yeah,
that good?
most definitely.
Okay.
So, but here's the thing. Sometimes, not all women, but some women, they're like, you didn't ask it the way I wanted you to ask it. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can a husband ask, like, for expectations on, like, anything?
I think just opening that door and saying, there was sometimes when we were first married, it was rough. And I try to go back because we've been married 37 years now.
Yeah.
So I try to go back and think, okay, it wasn't all rosy and everything. It seems like we have like the perfect life, whatever, but we haven't, we definitely went through all the struggles that everybody else went through.
Right.
I think it was a matter, I will say at the beginning of our marriage, I might have been a little more emotional about it. Like if, you don't understand, and you get in a little more like fights, not necessarily fights. We didn't really have all out fights like some people do. Because this guy is like sweet and calm and,
loving and handsome.
Yeah,
and
he really is.
strong
He's the
and
he's the
manly.
best.
Epitome
But you
of a
know, in our
man.
young
No, we're
years
not
of
fighters.
marriage,
We're not
no, we're
fighters.
just not fighters. I would actually be more of like a runner from anything like that, and he would too. You know, we don't like confrontation at all.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to hit the nail on the head, and it's like, okay, we have to deal with this right now. So,
Right.
Yeah.
but as far as having him, I think it was just a matter of me saying it. Like, that's the only way. You have to open your mouth. You can't be complacent in that. You have to, like, okay, I kind of expected that maybe, you were going to, do this role, like, say, mow the lawn, which guys normally do, but but I thought that would be your thing, but you've let it go for days and now I've done it, or something like that. And it's just a matter of doing that, not being accusatory. In the early years, I was a little more accusatory, like you or whatever. And now, of course, we realize now you have to do the I feel or I need, or I would like to know, like I need to understand. And it's all about understanding. It's all about,
Yeah, that's the goal of communication
Yeah.
is understanding.
Right.
So I've seen before where people, they're feeling these unmet expectations. It could be with communication or just in their marriage. No one will know what the expectations are unless it's communicated.
You have to.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
sometimes we can be upset. It's like, well, you never asked what my expectation was. And what I always encourage people to do is to voice your expectation in a loving, grace-filled way. Like, hey, I have this expectation of this.
Yeah.
This is how you make me feel. I like it when you do this. And just tell the person. Sometimes in dating, you play these dating games, right? Whether it's hard to
Yes.
get or, whatever. There's just these stupid dating
Did Anna
games.
play games with you?
No, man, she
All right,
did not
good.
play games.
Neither did Danica.
Which I appreciate
Thank you,
because
Jesus.
I dated girls that were playing games and I was like,
That ain't right.
I ain't in the league. I'm not trying to play games. But like I think something is so important with communication is this is your husband. This is your wife. Just tell them what you need. Just
absolutely.
communicate it in a loving way. Why do you feel like so many people are afraid to voice what they need and how they can grow in their relationship together?
I think it's an insecurity thing. Like I'm thinking back, I was insecure and I didn't want to open up that. I felt vulnerable. I didn't want to. If I opened up, I'd feel like that was like a vulnerability, and I didn't want to, and I didn't want to hurt his feelings or But yeah, there was definitely some times that
I
made
think
it hard.
in our pre-marriage class that we do, there's exercises that they do, that the couples do, and the things, and it makes you talk about all these different things that a lot of couples don't talk about.
Yeah.
And I would say if you're struggling with that, man, I know there's sites out there, there's questions out there that you can look up and just sit down together and go through. This is our expectations on how we celebrate holidays, or simple things to really important things.
I like that, man, because I still have all those papers, by the way. Because for those of you guys that didn't see the first episode, Danica and we went through their class, and I saw the bag with, I think it's like M&Ms.
Oh yeah, that's so funny.
They never ate them.
What did you guys? What was
That was
do you
memorize
remember?
and meditate.
Memorize and
Scripture.
meditate.
That was Gary Smalley that talked about that.
And there were a few other little mementos, and I
Yeah.
kept them all in this thing. And with it is that Symbis assessment, saving your marriage before it starts, and different questions asked. So I'm gonna pull that out.
I think we had a
again.
bucket as well.
Okay,
Did you get a bucket
yes.
in that class?
Yes.
Okay, because
did
we
the
always
Bob
had
Goff
the
story.
Bob
Oh,
Goff,
that's so funny.
who wrote Everybody Always. He wrote Love Does, but he has this bucket that he would carry everywhere, and it's like, what's in your bucket? Like he carried it around to remind him, like, when he was impatient, because he said, I've always been an impatient guy. So how am I gonna remind myself not to be impatient? And that's what he did. He carried a bucket on the airplane everywhere. And then he has a great story in that book about the bucket story and how it was so key. But so I think we read that
I
story.
like that.
Yeah, to everybody.
And what I love is, okay, we put all this work in before we get married, but why don't we do a refresh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every few years, once a year, maybe every 6 months for a season to go through.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you forget, oh, she likes it when this takes place. I haven't been doing that for 8 months.
Yeah. And I think
True.
that's one thing that's so important in marriage is connecting
Absolutely.
in every capacity.
Yeah.
One thing that me and my wife, we try to do is we try to go on a date every week.
That's awesome.
And we don't hit it every week, when things get busy, but we just started talking about how every 7 weeks we want to do like a night away together, just because
So
it's
good
like
of idea.
we
Yes.
just did it, just a night away. We had some people stay with our kids, and it was so great to like just get away.
Yeah.
And even if it's just for 24 hours.
Yep.
And oh my goodness, like I felt like we were dating.
Yeah.
You know, like I still like you.
That's
and I
awesome.
still love
I love
you.
that.
Know?
I love that.
So I think, you know, as much as you can to have those connection points in marriage where you're out of your normalcy. Because I feel like when we're in our normalcy in marriage, we can just get so used to the mundane marriage. And when we're just in that moment, we don't want to deposit. We don't want to stay curious. We don't want to seek to understand because it's just, we're used to it.
Yeah.
Yep. We get complacent. We get lazy.
We got to remember the grass is greener where you water it. You got to continually water your relationship.
Yeah.
So this kind of goes with communication, but a little bunny trail. Like, how can we not how can we not be lazy in marriage? How can we keep urgency? How can we stay curious and keep falling in love?
Man, you just got to, if you got to put it on the calendar, put it on the calendar, and you got to be intentional about it. I think I love you talked about last time, you have a team meeting or a family meeting once. I don't even know how the frequency, but I thought that was a great idea. If you're a young couple or even a couple struggling with things, what a great thing. Start listening to good ideas. When you hear people tell you, hey, that would be really good to put into my marriage, but actually do it.
Yeah.
So, find some people that you respect or you like what they have to offer and ask them.
Yeah.
Ask other marriages. When you want to know the road ahead, you have to ask someone who's come back from that, right?
Yeah.
Or the trail was called the law
Just
of
like that
observation.
Aztec trail where you broke your foot.
That's right. If we
Yeah,
would have asked someone
true.
coming this way, he would
The
tell us,
Norway trip.
Watch out for that pothole.
yeah, watch out for that hole. But ask people, ask couples that you believe to have a good marriage. Give us ideas. What are you guys doing? I don't know. I think we have to. You have to be. We train for our jobs. We train for athletics. But we sometimes we get pretty lazy in our besides salvation. Your most important thing is getting married to your wife.
Yeah.
So we got to have that
I feel like
intensity.
it's so important just to keep it fun.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think fun's our middle name. Adventure,
y'all are
fun,
some
and
fun
spontaneity. Those are three things we love.
but a lot of people, they lose the fun
That's
and then they
true.
blame the kids and then they blame the work. And it's like, no, you can still have fun.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
buy your wife an outfit and be like, we're going out tonight, baby.
And
you're
don't-
gonna be looking good, girl.
Yeah.
Or like
Yeah.
buy your man a shirt. Like, my wife bought me this shirt, and your
Nice.
wife actually bought you the
Very
same
nice.
one
And
with
I
all
threw it
of
away.
our other wives in our small group. So 7 men showed up.
Is that right?
Now,
wearing
Sean
this
would
shirt.
not wear that if you were matching.
Yeah, this was like
We don't
when Anna
match.
got it for
We
me.
try
I was
not
like,
to.
this is like a bowling shirt, but I'll wear it, baby. But like making it fun,
I like that.
keeping it fresh. Don't just go to Outback because you always go to Outback. I'm talking to myself right now.
I know the Davis
Like,
family loves
we
the
love
Outback.
it.
They
People get
love
us
it.
gift
A lot
cards.
of ketchup on that
A lot of
steak.
you need it.
The only Outback I want is go down under.
That's
Yeah,
it.
right.
Yeah, we're gonna. No.
That'd be
You
awesome.
know what's the Monday night marriages? They
Yeah.
just did. Greg Rochelle. That was one of our nights we were there, and he talked about keeping the fun in your marriage.
Yeah.
And he talked about face-to-face fun. You've got to communicate. That's about the communicating. And then you have to have side-by-side fun, which is doing activities, and then belly button to belly button
Come
fun.
on,
Yeah,
baby.
Come on.
That's
Amen to
Belly
that.
button to belly button.
But
Yes,
I thought that was
Lord.
amazing. I loved what he's talking about because, listen, if you're struggling in your marriage, right there's three ways to improve your marriage.
Right.
With an emphasis on button to button.
Belly button to belly button.
Button to button.
Yeah,
But a lot of times that doesn't come until you're doing the other
Yes.
types. you
Yeah,
know?
That's true.
It's like the
Yeah.
way I look at marriage is it's like a big circle. You have there's a spiritual side, emotional, physical, and then there's the physical. And if one of those areas is off,
Yeah.
it's going to affect
you're
the
gonna
other area.
and you can't have one without the other. It's like
Right.
it's this big circle that's just cohesive.
Yeah.
We have the
button to button.
triangular theory of love from the
But-
Symbis, actually.
So I'm saving a question for button to button later because
okay, no,
that's
that's
something
good.
that needs to be communicated.
It is.
about.
It does.
It
But
is.
something that so many people don't do well in their marriage is conflict resolution. And when people think about communication and how how should Christians handle conflict in a healthy, God honoring way? How should we do that?
Oh, we have a really good,
Yeah.
actually, Shawn does it in the class. And because most people's conflicts, they stay at opinion. Like, it doesn't go anywhere. And you see that all the time. Now that we've been aware of it, we're like, wow, that's so true. You have your opinion, you want to share it, and it's, that's my way or the highway type of thing. But you can go with the other steps, how to
Well,
get below the opinion.
So this was a Gary Smalley, he talks about 6 levels of communication. And then you have, small talk, facts, and opinion. And that's where most conflicts happen. Lisa's opinion is, we didn't spend enough money on this party. My opinion is it was way too much money. And then we start fighting about I'm trying to convince her that my opinion's right, and she's trying, and so on and so forth. But he says you got to dive deeper into this to grow and to find solutions. And then the next levels of communication are your feelings, your needs, and your beliefs. So if you drive down, and I want to know why she feels this is not enough money, whatever the example was. Yeah. But I think it is a pretty wise thing, because in the driving deeper, not only am I getting to know Lisa, our intimacy is growing. A lot of times a solution will just come into both of our minds. That's good. And anyway, that's one area. We have conflict resolution. I think that's sometimes we get more conversation on that night in our class, because I think people really, they do struggle with it somewhat, and they're not sure how to navigate it in a healthy way. So I wanted to, I don't want to, if we're okay, we'll talk a little more about it.
Yeah, please. No, we got plenty of time.
What's his name? Gottman, the Gottman Institute.
Gottman,
He's got the Love Lab. He's been studying thousands of couples for some of them over 15, 20 years.
Wow.
And he's identified 4 things that when we fight this way, they're going to be disastrous to your relationship. And so I'll tell you the 4. They're criticism, defensive,ness, contempt, and stonewalling. So some people might say, oh, no, I do that. But it's not like once in a while it comes up. But if that's your thing, think about a criticism. It starts with you. I'm accusing her of doing something. You never. And then immediately she becomes defensive, and that always is going to escalate. Contempt is, you always make us late because you're so irresponsible. Now I'm diagnosing her character. That is hurtful and definitely not healthy. That's going to be terrible. So I think he says you have to avoid those things. It's okay to have a complaint. That conflict is the price we pay for this beautiful, intimate relationship, right? With my soulmate, doing life together. But we just have to know how to navigate it, like you said at the beginning, in a healthy way. And I think I feel hurt when you do this. Just knowing some of those tactics like that is one thing. Yeah. I know we talked about it last time. Be careful with your words. Make sure you, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and therefore slow to anger. Really don't ever speak out when you're really ticked. Let that time settle before you guys talk about things.
How can they do that? Because people are so mad, and they have to tell them how they feel right then. So I tell people the same way, but how can they do it?
Well, we just heard someone the other day say we are taking a
timeout,
a little timeout.
Yeah, that's what he said.
You really have to get in that mode, and you have to choose that you are going to go in that mode. Yeah. You're going to just walk away and then come back to it when you feel like you can actually talk. Because I know in our early years, I didn't want to talk. I wanted to run away from it, and I didn't want to cry, because my first response was my emotions would come out via crying, and then I wouldn't be able to talk, and I'd be a sobbing mess.
Your makeup's all ruined.
Well, I don't even care about that so much. It was just I didn't want to cry, because I never like crying in front of people, but yet I wear my heart on my sleeve, so it's going to happen. Yeah. But I would rather avoid it. But when I'm ready, and he actually learned how to read me very early on. He would give me space. And that's really important, young people. When you're first married, learn to give your spouse some space.
Right.
And they'll talk. It'll eventually come up, and then you can say, hey, can we bring that up again, and let's, but it is hard in the moment, because when you're angry, you're angry.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know we're supposed to be angry and sin not, but that's a really hard thing to do. But you could really memorize. I'm thinking I need to memorize Romans 12, that whole chapter.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Like it needs to be
Danica's
there.
favorite.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
It needs to be my favorite.
I think that taking the time, but don't ignore it then, because we do have to address the different things, because the aggravations, the thing, if we let them sit there, they're going to fester, and they're going to come up
they
later
will.
in a bigger way.
So you said the 4 were criticism, contempt. What were the other 2?
Criticism, defensiveness.
Defensiveness.
Yep. Contempt.
And stonewalling.
And stonewalling.
We were just talking about contempt.
We were.
You want to tell them about that study?
Yeah. So
Oh, yeah.
you guys probably know about this because it's John Gottman.
Okay.
He basically, because those couples he studied,
Yeah.
Yep.
if he can look at a video of them for 15 minutes,
Yep.
and if any of them show any signs of contempt,
Yep.
he has like a 90% success
He
rate.
does.
He can tell if they're not going
diagnosing.
to. I know. No, that is the stat that
It's
they
so wild.
It's
Yeah.
crazy to me.
Yeah. And that's what we were talking about, is this contempt of, you're saying we're always late because you're just irresponsible.
Yeah.
And it's almost this air of like, I'm better than you and you're the issue.
Yeah.
And that can drive a huge wedge between people,
Absolutely.
because if that's what you believe, then that's the mindset you're going to view everything through.
It's always your fault.
Yeah.
Right.
Listen, and remember, the tongue has the power of life and death. When you speak that over your spouse, that has an effect for sure.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So if someone listening to this is in a situation where like, man, I do that. I've spoken those things. I've showed contempt. I criticize. What advice would you give them? What can they do to make amends or apologize or communicate better? What advice would you give them?
Be expert forgivers. And I mean,
Yeah, that's really.
you just would have to come. You have to be humble and
be genuine.
Be genuine when you in your
Yeah.
apology, and say, "That's not my intent." This is the thing. Kind of going back to your family of origin, you might have seen fights modeled in your household, and that's the only way you know how to respond. So some of that is you're still responsible for your actions.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, that could be something like, you're like, I'm really struggling. I think if we would all be better at communicating to our spouse, hey, I'm struggling with this. And man, how much more understanding and how much more support would you get? And and just think of the intimacy grows because you're doing it together.
Right.
Yeah,
true.
and if you're struggling with something and your spouse is able to tell you, well, this is why I've been doing this, you are seeking to understand. Because then you might be like, oh my goodness, you've been struggling with the loss of your mom. And that's why you've been neglecting X, Y, and Z. Like you've been struggling with anxiety, and it softens your heart to
Absolutely.
Gives way for empathy.
and empathy and compassion in a relationship is huge.
Yeah.
And it helps helps content not be strong and not be defensive and stonewalling when you just seek to understand.
Yeah, that's true.
The bottom line is, what are you mostly fighting about? I mean, when you really think about it, or if you think about it just a couple days later, it's like, that was the dumbest thing I ever even.
Right.
I mean, why? Granted, there is like some huge things. I get it. There's like so many big things. But if you just if you could just like hover above the situation and have like a bigger picture of it, I think that your perspective would change a little bit. You just think about where we live. We are so blessed. We have so many amazing things to be grateful for when there's so much crazy around the world.
Yeah.
I mean, and one thing we don't do is watch the news. I know that I'm aware of what's going on, but we don't watch it because you know what? That makes people angry.
Yeah.
And that brings out a lot of anger in people because there's so many awful things going on in like, why would you let your mind go there? Like,
I don't watch the news
constantly?
either. I'm also not aware though. So if
But
something's
we're not
going on, I'm like,
100%
hey,
aware.
I rely on
Someone will
other
tell
people
I
you.
to
have
tell me.
friends that tell me.
Yeah, we do have friends.
So one of the things that I've seen in conflicts when it comes to marriages is sometimes people treat preferences of things like moral failures, where kind of like how you're talking about when it comes to like opinions. But to me, it's more so preferences. Like, I prefer you not to do this, and we treat it like a moral failure. It's like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I want there to be no dishes in the sink at night. Well, that's your preference, but we're treating it like it's a moral failure.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things when it comes to fighting, and I don't even want to call it fighting, but conflict, is not to treat preferences like a moral failure.
Yeah.
That's an opportunity
true.
to be like, I feel when you leave a cup in the sink or whatever it may be, all the dishes, it makes me feel really anxious. You know, can we come up with a plan together where we put it on the schedule where Monday I do it, Thursday, and whatever it is, and not treating a preference of something like it's this moral failure, like you cheated on me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no.
Because I mean, 90% of the reasons why people have huge fights is these stupid little things that are preferences. Well, I prefer that you come to the gym with me. I prefer that you dress like this. I prefer that, and it's like, and then it just all builds up and explodes.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, but that's so. I want to ask you this: when it comes to fighting fair in marriage, what are like some basic ground rules for people to implement in their marriage?
Wow,
I'm
have to be.
I'm going to say the one thing about that, I do think those preferences, it definitely, they lessen with time.
Yes.
I will
definitely do.
tell you that. But if you're young married, then we need to come up with some advice for you.
Yeah, right.
But I really think some things that maybe really bugged Lisa earlier on, she's certainly mellowed out, and same with me. So I do think time helps some of those things.
So when it comes to the young marriage, when it comes to preferences, what I tell people is, every person that you marry, 80% of them is like everything you've ever dreamed of. That's why you married them. But the preferences are the 20%.
That's a good.
And you're focusing on the 20%.
Yes,
so it's the 80-20
right.
rule. Stop focusing on the 20 and focus on the 80.
Mm-hmm.
Stop worrying about these stupid little things that are destroying your relationship and your intimacy and everything. It's like, I'm going to focus on all the good stuff. And I'm going to cheer her on. I'm going to cheer him on. And just don't focus on the stupid stuff.
Yeah.
No, that's so true.
That's good advice.
That's
for
very
sure.
good
I
advice.
appreciate that.
Because when you're
You should come and
when you're
speak in the
grateful,
class.
it's hard to be miffed and grateful at the same time.
Yeah.
That's
So
the thing.
some ground rules. What do we think? I think don't let the sun go down on your anger. I think, even if
I had
if
some
you
sleepless nights when we were younger.
even if you didn't resolve it, there's still a way to be loving, and say let's talk about this in the morning. I guess if that's what was.
You don't sleep. You just won't
Yeah,
sleep.
that's true.
Yeah, you sleep bad.
I think our words we never want to say, in our anger, when we're talking about it, we never want to speak not life to our spouse. That's an
That's
important
easy for
thing.
you to say, but it's not easy for a person that's like an angry type of
could be,
personality.
reactor,
or you grew up
I
seeing your
mean-
parents cuss each other out, and that's
yeah,
normal.
that's true. That's true.
Exactly. That makes it a little difficult, and I don't know. I just think if you're not spending time, first of all, you got to spend time in the Word.
Yeah.
Yourself individually.
Yeah.
If you're not a healthy person, I mean, that's going to come out all over the place in your marriage.
True.
Plus, when you're first married, you don't know all these things. Like, that's why we recommend everyone takes the SYMBIS assessment and goes through the 6-week class, which every single person that goes through it that we have taught, I mean, everyone loves it. And they're like kind of sad that the 6 weeks are done at the end, because it's like, well, what's next? Like, we need to, let's continue on with this. But I just think because of that, all those little weird nitpicky things that you might think didn't even matter, you never talked about, you actually are going to talk about those, because we actually have them sit for 5 minutes or whatever. I mean, it's 5 minutes, great. That's not that long of a time, but at least it gets some, things aired out. Like, oops, sorry, I'm
you're
all
fine.
over the place here.
So I want to talk about, you mentioned these preferences that are big when you're first getting married, young couples that kind of mellow out with time. How has that played out in y'all's marriage? Like, what does that look like? Like, are there certain things that she was upset about when you guys were young, and now it's like, it's just how it is?
Yeah.
Like, is there practical things, or is that something that just kind of happens? Or
I mean, she grew up, and her mom was a neat freak.
Yeah.
That. So
And my
early
dad's a
on,
military guy too, so everything was
And
like,
I wasn't.
if you sit, you're lazy. So you
Yeah.
always had to clean. We cleaned all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Amen.
I
No,
mean,
I'm
it was
kidding.
just the way that we were raised.
But she was a
you
little
know?
extreme.
I was a little extreme. Like everything had to
All
be
the
organized.
Legos were in colored boxes. you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Wow.
extreme.
Well, I did that for a little while.
Yeah, that for a little while.
Sean would have a drink, you know, he'd put it down, the cup, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Where's my cup?" I'm like, well, "I washed it already, and it's put away."
Not on the
Like,
coaster,
No,
buddy.
no, it wasn't the coaster thing. It was all about like
just
it's
that.
on the counter.
My
and it
cleaning
needs to be
wouldn't make it
somewhere else.
in.
Yeah. Like if I set it down for a moment, I go back, it's gone.
Oh yeah, we did that for I did that for quite a while. And of course, I don't think guys are they could care less
Yeah.
most of the time.
Sure.
And even back in the day, you know, throwing laundry on
laundry,
next
yeah.
to the laundry basket, that wasn't like really cool. But you know
He
what?
missed the shot.
What's
I
funny
miss
is
the
I
shot.
do
He's
the
a
same thing
basketball
now.
player, man.
It's so funny how things change. And it's, you know, marriage is like, you know, a marathon. You train by going to classes, trying to learn as much as you can about each other. Take personality tests,
Go
take
to
your love
conferences.
languages tests. What's that?
I said go to conferences.
Go to conferences.
Go to
absolutely.
conferences, do as much as you
Ask
can
people
to
questions,
learn.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
find couples that have fun and are madly in love and just, you know, talk to them.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're talking to us because
That's-
we do like to have fun and we are
Yeah.
madly in love. Not that we're giving the greatest advice right now.
No,
but
it is. Well, that's why
to
you're
that.
you're
know?
back on. One of the things you said earlier is that, you know, we enjoy having fun. And what I love about you guys is you have this joy about you, and I think it comes from gratitude. Like you mentioned earlier,
Gratitude.
like, man, we're so blessed where we live, like in this nation.
Mm.
So many people, they don't even think about that. It's just so the problem becomes a focus. So how in y'all's marriage have you kept the fun alive? Is it like, hey, we make sure that we have a date night every week, we make sure that we travel every few months? Is there other practical things you can put in place if someone wants to just have more fun in their marriage? What advice would
Well,
you give
in the
them?
early years, we didn't have any money. Like literally, there's like it was, you know, scraping the bottom of the barrel, basically. But we still managed to do a lot of fun things, even if it was like driving to North Carolina and staying with family or whatever. You know,
Yeah.
not that family's very fun to stay with, to be quite honest. But but at least you could get out, you know. But we just always made a priority. We first of all, we do love to work out together. I think it's really important. You know, like we've always like I've run since I was like 12 years old. I think, you know, that was one part of my
Military training from your father.
Yeah, for
yeah,
Take a
true.
lap. No.
He always worked out. He's a basketball player. So when we actually met, that's one of the first things we did is join a gym together. So we weren't apart.
Yeah.
Like we like to be together almost all the time. Like I would rather be with him than anybody else in the world, you know. So and we would do free things. There's so many like different things that are low cost or free that you actually can do.
Yeah.
There's websites you can go to find all the fun stuff that's around Tampa Bay,
Yeah.
you know, in our area.
There's so much free stuff here.
There really
There's a lot.
is.
Yeah.
You go on the crazy coupon lady and find what's free on
There you
National
go.
Hamburger Day yesterday. You know, like there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But
I think we've been blessed in the fact that we have a lot of things in common that we
do.
like.
Yeah.
So if you're not that couple, sometimes you have to just try new things. Try something the other person likes. First of all, you might find that you really do enjoy doing
Right.
it. And the other thing is, it's going to be received well because you're doing it for them, you know? So I think you really, that's
well,
important.
he's a scuba diver. He's been one since he was 16, and then he was a rescue diver at the fire department and everything. And he always wanted me to learn how to scuba dive, and I was freaked out. All I thought was there's sharks underneath, and I can't see under there,
Terrifying.
right? So, but anyways, at one point, I was
It
like,
took me
I'm
6
just gonna
years to
do
talk
this.
her into it.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to the class by myself. I'm going to try,
Wow.
you know, go to Lake Avon Park to do one of the dives, out in the Gulf and the other ones without him.
Wow.
And hey, it's been an amazing, fun thing when we do go places where we can scuba dive.
Right.
Yeah.
We can do that. So like, you know, I would have never done that otherwise.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
that's one thing that Danica does a really good job of. Is any of my interests, she tries to take an interest in
That's
it. Like to
awesome.
the point
Yeah.
where she
I
started
love
training
that.
jujitsu with me.
Really?
You know,
Oh, that's
before she
awesome.
got pregnant, she trained for like 2 years. She got a green belt.
Wow.
She did a competition and submitted this girl, choked her out. It was
Oh, yeah.
awesome. She's missing
I know
that
what
right
you're
now
saying
though,
now.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you know we have a small child, another one on the way. But that's such a huge key. Is like if your partner's interested in something, give it a shot. Like,
Absolutely.
maybe you don't like it, but at least you try it, and that's going to go a long way.
That's going to go a long
right.
way. Absolutely.
So when it comes to communication, one of the things that I feel like so many marriages miss the mark, and I have to ask this question, is how can couples that are married communicate about intimacy and sex? And because for so many people, it's so uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like there's a lot of people who are having not great sex, and they're not having intimacy there. How can they communicate about that in an effective, non-condescending way without putting that person down?
I'm going to talk about this for a second, because when we were first married, I think it's all about being vulnerable, and like you're worried that the other person's going to think, oh, you're not. That's what I thought with Shawn, basically. It's not that I wasn't enjoying sex, but I felt like there was so much more that could happen, you know?
Yeah.
So, but one time we were talking about it. We actually opened up and started talking about it. And then we were like, wow, we did find a website, and it's a Christian-based website, and it's pretty awesome, actually. And now that's more recently that we've seen that, like within the last maybe 7 years or something. I don't know that I should put it on here or not, but it's Ultimate Intimacy. It's an Ultimate Intimacy app, and it's Christian-based.
Awesome.
The couple that does it, they have a podcast as well.
Oh, nice.
And well,
Some of it might shock
go
you.
research it for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
no, it's not going to shock you.
No, it's not PG-13.
Yeah. You have to precursor with that. Huh?
No, I don't know.
If you're married.
But you know what? That is a very, very sensitive subject, and I would just like encourage everyone.
Yeah.
Please just talk about it. He wants you. You guys want to please your wives.
Right.
You want to, and it's us holding our own selves back, I believe, in that, because guys kind of just need to show up.
Yeah.
Right.
We have
Girls
it
are a
easy.
little more complicated. It takes
It's
a little,
always good for me.
It really does. It takes a little more, you know.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So,
And I feel like in the church and Christians, there's like a lot of Christians that are married. They've been in the church for a long time, and there's this purity culture. So when you think about sex, you think, oh, I'm dirty.
oh, I've always thought that.
So
back in the day.
my wife, that's where kind of was. She came out of a Baptist church that was very purity culture, but it kind of ingrained in her when we're having sex. It's like,
Same
I'm
here.
filthy, I'm dirty, and I'm like, baby, this is a gift. Let's have some fun. You know,
Yeah.
like
I
this
know.
doesn't have. You know, I just
Yeah.
I know
be this
God
every single
created
time.
this.
You know,
I mean,
That's right.
seriously, it's
So-
created by God. Why are we thinking that? It's
Yeah.
because our world has gone so far in a different
That's true
direction,
with it.
and the thing is, like, it's such a beautiful thing. Like, it's such a sad thing that our world, pornography is like,
yeah.
billions and billions and billions of dollars. It's
Right.
sickening, maddening, all of the above.
Right.
And it's destroying marriages
Yeah.
left and right.
Yeah, there's websites that have help you have an affair with your wife. And
I
just
saw that one time. I was like,
I
oh my
watched it on
gosh.
Netflix. It was crazy.
Well, I think I
But-
heard it mentioned somewhere.
Yeah,
so.
and but it's just so when people think about sex and they think about, oh, there could be an app that could help me, and your mind automatically goes to
It's
a dirty
bad.
place, and this is
Yeah.
bad, and this is wrong, and
I
I
agree.
shouldn't, have fun, like it should just be this. It's like this is a gift.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Even in the Bible, it's like, may her
Totally.
breasts satisfy you always.
Oh, yeah.
And when people talk about that verse, like, ooh,
Yeah.
that's gross. It's
That's
like,
the problem, though.
it's
Yeah.
okay.
It's okay. That's
And,
right.
and I think maybe the next time we have you on, that might be the topic. Because so many Christians struggle with that, and they're not having a good sex life with their partner. And
That's
that-
why they're going to look
Yeah.
at other things. They're not, I mean, or getting involved in other things. I 100%. I just feel like having the way that I grew up was definitely, I mean, neither of us like really had any talks with even our family members. Never, our parents didn't really talk to us about it. It was kind of like going in blindly. So, I didn't know anything. I literally, Shawn will tell you, I came from Papua New Guinea, missionary kid. I knew nothing. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's words I don't even know what the anatomy parts were called. I had no clue. I literally didn't. And then he meets, I mean, actually, thankfully, we've taught each other everything we know. So
Right.
we are very,
Yeah.
Blessed.
yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, baby.
Teamwork.
Teamwork.
So
I agree, though.
Yeah.
I think it's an important thing. First of all, you have to talk your spouse. You guys have to talk about it. And if you struggle with it, there is Christian websites, Christian authors that
There's counselors.
you can actually
Yeah.
you can read it together.
Right.
If it feels uncomfortable, you read some of the things together, and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, ask questions.
Try to go to the right. Ultimate Intimacy is a good.
Well, yeah,
Ultimate
no, it
Intimacy
is
a
because
good one.
you never want to, the site, it has. There's 200 positions, but they're stick figures. It's
Yeah.
not like
Yeah.
pornography.
Yeah. There's-
Hey, that was my COVID.
You guys check it out.
COVID-19, 200 positions in
There you
2020.
go. There you go.
put it on some dice, baby. Just roll the dice.
See, we already had this conversation. We don't need to come back here again.
No, I think
just
we need to
kidding.
go. We need a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I'll put a little
Yeah.
stop here and then close
Yeah.
with one question. Is
Okay.
I think we need to get comfortable with our spouse about talking about sex.
I think so.
What do you like? What do you not like?
Yeah.
How do you all of these different
Yeah.
things? If this doesn't feel good for you, I don't want to do it. What feels good for you? For most guys, I would say 99.9. It's like we
Just
good.
show up.
Yeah, I'm
exactly.
good, baby. So, kind of closing out with this is I feel like one of the most important things when it comes to communication is forgiveness. So, what role does forgiveness play in communication?
Gosh, everything.
There's such a good devotional that she reads during the class about, and I said it early, you have to be an expert forgiver, and it
Yeah.
talks about that, but I don't remember how to articulate that well. But I mean, think of that. Obviously, we're humans. We're gonna mess up. We're gonna hurt the other person. We have to always be. I never want to. It's not my goal to do that. But boy, I have to be willing to forgive, but I also have to be, coming and asking for forgiveness when
Right.
those times when I know that I've hurt her.
I don't really know.
Yeah.
It's just you have to be expert forgivers. This
Yeah.
is very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's not like just a magic formula, and it starts with you.
Yeah.
Like, where are you? Where are you in the Word? Where are you in your relationship? I mean, I value Shawn above any other person on this planet.
Yeah.
And we're best friends. Like, why can't we share every single thing? And if you're upset with me, yeah, I might get upset, but then I can, we just come back, and you just have to come back to it,
Because if you
That's not like a
don't
great answer,
forgive,
maybe, but
No.
but if
it's
you
just a matter of
don't,
your
or
choosing
if
to
you
do
hold
that.
on to
Grudges or something.
whatever that thing that miffed you, it's going to affect your communication.
Yeah.
It's going to, all those areas you talked about, even the belly button, it's going to affect every part if we're not, dealing with
We don't
those
want to affect
things
the belly
and-
button.
and,
No, we don't.
and
No.
forgiving each other. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just as Christ forgave you.
Just as for
Exactly.
Christ,
That's
yeah.
how we
Amen.
forgive, man.
Amen.
That's right.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching and joining us here today. We're going to definitely try to get them on for part 3. So make sure you stay tuned.
Button to button.
But if you have any questions or comments, let us know in the comments down below. Like this video, share it with friends. And if you have questions for us, send us an email at fullydedicated@countryside.cc. We'll see you next time.
See y'all.